Talking TSM, the Game House's talk show about TSM's LCS team. I'm Robert Haynes, your host and your guide into the world of TSM's LCS team. And wow, not as much to talk about as we had hoped, but there is still some good news in the last couple of days. So I hope everybody's doing well. For those of you who celebrate Thanksgiving, I think mostly those of you here in the United States, happy early Thanksgiving. If any major news comes out, I might do a quick podcast this week, but this will likely be the only one for this week. And I'm kind of excited for what all we've got planned today. We've got some interesting things going on, and it seems as though TSM really have a plan in place. Now, whether or not they're executing on it yet, we'll have to see. But today we're going to go over our most recent signing. We're going to talk a little bit about Spica, a little bit more in depth. And then we are also going to go over some more options. Guys, it's roster season. We got to be talking about the options. I did a bunch of research the last couple days to try to find our best options in different areas. And, well, not as many as I would like, but still quite a few in areas that I'd not really considered before. And this may be why TSM is taking so much time to get everything kind of figured out. So, and then at the end of this segment, we are going to do the giveaway. The winner has been decided. There were about 15 to 20 of you that entered, officially, that actually did the following and being on the Talking TSM Discord and everything like that. So it was really cool to see, and I seriously appreciate the support. Sorry it took so long to do it. There were just a couple things that kind of happened in between that kept me from being able to do it when I meant to. And so I appreciate you guys, hanging with me on that one. But let's just jump right into it. First topic of the day, tactical. It's official. It is official. We have our boy, Young Tactical, is coming over to the team that got it all started for him, to the LCS, which is, I think, very, very exciting. I also think, it's maybe to some people a little bit of a letdown, but truly, I'm pretty excited about it myself. I think we saw a lot more of him lately, or I think we saw a lot from him and his growth and his development this year, and I'm really excited to see kind of what comes next for a player like him. I'm bringing up his stats right now, and I think his laning stats were really impressive, because I saw a stat that talked about, how often, or, well, frankly, not often, Tactical was actually with his lane partner in Core JJ. And I believe Core JJ had either the lowest or one of the lowest, duo proximities with Tactical. And yet, Tactical still finished in the top 3 in goal difference at 10. I believe he finished second in XP at 10. Now, that depends. Johnson was the highest, but he, didn't obviously play every game of the season. So, you could say Tactical was second there. His CS difference at 10 was also tied for first, technically. Again, if you don't count Johnson, since he didn't play the whole split last summer. And in an area where Lost was the worst, Tactical was tied for second best in CS per minute. His damage per minute, guys, 632. Tomo and Danny are behind him by almost 100 damage per minute. Okay? That is crazy when you really think about it. And, Tactical was still up there in terms of kill participation. He had 30% of the kill share for his team. He finished second in kills overall, only behind Danny. And he had the second most deaths, behind Raze, which is, a little concerning, but I think that's the kind of player he is. And that's where, I want to, I've gone through all the stats. Let's talk a little bit about tactical now. So, obviously he came over, after being on TSM Academy, going to TL, being on TL Academy, coming in for double lift, which is kind of crazy, the way that this has kind of turned around for him. His time on TSM Academy, he obviously became close friends with Spica. I am being told, one of my sources is telling me that this was specifically a Spica signing, meaning that Spica specifically requested tactical. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I'm not going to put that out there as obviously, this is the truth. This is what happened. No, I don't know that for sure. That is the way that it is looking right now. And I think that that's, when we go into segment 2, I'll explain why I think that that's probably pretty likely. But overall, our boy Tactical here, I think he's a beast, guys. We got to remember, before Danny, Tactical was the Danny. Everybody's like, oh my God, it's Tactical. I can't believe TSM ever let Tactical go. I remember reading on Reddit, TSM's so stupid for letting Tactical go. They should have known Double Lift was retiring, blah, 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 right? And now we're stuck with Lost. And it's I don't know, guys, and realistically, the decision was probably between Tactical and Kabe, which, now that one's a pretty bad decision. But, when we're looking at Tactical, the fact that all of his laning stats were great, right? He was second in kills by only 2 to Danny. And yeah, he had a lot of deaths, but he was very involved in getting a lot of kills and doing a lot of things and being very aggressive. And I think there's a couple points that are super important about that. The first one is that even with Core JJ, roaming around and doing other things, Tactical was still able to have a massive impact in games. And I think that's really important to remember. And I think that's going to be really important when we kind of go into this coming, year with him. He really pointed out Core JJ is helping him to develop, and I don't think there's anybody better in North American history than Core JJ to develop talent. Now, Afram, I know, gets a lot of credit too. I think he deserves it 100%. But, with Core JJ coming up with all the different things that he has to help develop NA talent, it's very clear that he has a passion for it, which, by the way, if Core JJ is available as a coach ever, I hope TSM go for him. I think that that's going to be really, 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 really important. One second. I got to remember. We also got to go over the coach. I almost forgot about that. Wow. I'm really sorry. I did. I literally completely forgot the fact that we have to go over the coach too. So today's going to be a little bit longer than I had initially anticipated. But, sorry guys. I don't know how the heck I forgot about that. I think I was just so focused on everything else that I did not even think about the fact that our new head coach is actually here. So yeah, you guys are gonna have to bear with me for about 2 seconds here while I get that fixed. But we'll go back into talking about Tactical here. So Tactical is, like I said, Core JJ, if he becomes available for head coach, sorry, I'll get back to that. God, brain is all over the place today, guys. Core JJ would be a great coach, and I would hope the TSM would consider picking him up, depending on how this new head coach goes, which we will talk about here in a second. But when I get back to Tactical here, he's clearly been learning from one of the best. And the fact that he was able to still have such an impact without Core JJ being with him at all times, still being able to have such an impact in lane, we saw him get solo kills. We saw him do a lot of great things this past year. And I truly believe that Tactical is going to be an integral part of TSM for a long time. And what I love about Tactical is his aggressive behavior, his ability to go in and try to make plays. And one of the things you're gonna see is it's called in football they call it hero mode, where the quarterback, generally speaking, is the one who just tries to just pull off the hero play constantly over and over and over again. And I make a lot of references to sports ball, football, baseball, basketball, whatever, because that happens in a lot of different competitive modes where people will games where people will try to be the hero, try to be the one that pushes the team to victory when they need it most. And one of the things that we really discussed and struggled with Loss specifically last year was the fact that he did not really make those plays, right? He was very absent in a lot of games. And so when I look at the way that TSM is building so far in our confirmed roster, Hooney, Spica, and Tactical, this is going to be a team that I think is going to thrive in chaos. They are going to push teams to make plays. And it's going to be a little bit more controlled chaos than like when we had Dardoch, when it was literally chaos and Bjergsen just saving Dardoch's, all the time, basically. And so when I think about our future right now, and I think about, okay, the way that this team is being built is for heavy aggression. The only thing I worry about with that is whether or not Hooney's going to regress to his old play style where he was just unhinged at all times. I hope that he still keeps that controlled aggression, and I hope that this will allow Spica to make more plays, to roam around the map more, right? When they can trust that Tactical can play weak side and strong side, whereas Lost really could only play strong side very well. And so I think Tactical's going to be a major upgrade in my mind. And now we have our 3 NA players as well, which is allowing us to look at a plethora of different options in mid and bot lane. And I'm really, really, really excited about this one because I just think Tactical, I think he's going to show that he's a lot more than just core JJ. I think he's going to show that on a team that isn't full of superstars at every single position, that he can be that star again, right? Like he had been in the past. And I'm very excited for it, and I'm sure that he is too. And I think there's something to be said about Spica and Tactical and Hooney probably all being good friends already and being able to create a good atmosphere. And so, I am going to be giving grades for teams once their rosters are revealed. And right now, depending on what they do in mid and support, but at this very moment, I'm giving TSM probably like a B plus. And the only reason I'm not giving them an A is because I think just losing Bjergsen, I think is just it's too much for me to give them an A right now without seeing mid and support, but mid more specifically. But I think Hooney is going to be a top tier jungler, or top tier top laner. I really do, especially with Fudge moving to mid lane officially. I do think Summit is going to be very good from what it sounds like. But I think when I look at like who Hooney is going to have to compete with, it feels like it's really just going to be Bwipo and Summit. And someday in Tenacity too. So I don't know. I mean, that's tough. I think he's going to be back to like 4th or 5th best top laner, but that's fine. I mean, it's not a position that I think you need to spend a lot of money on. The more and more I've talked with people like Mellory as well, I kind of agree with that perspective. And continuing that, I think Spica is clearly a top 2 jungler in the LCS. I don't really know who we could say is better than him. I do think, we're going to have Santorin, Blabber, Closer, and Spica, and I think those are going to be our top tier junglers, and then we'll have to see from there. They'll have to separate themselves a little bit, but as of right now, MVP, first team, all LCS, Spica, I think he right now is the best one, so that helps. And then I think with Tactical, truly, I think he could be a top 2 or 3 AD carry. I think it's going to be like realistically between FBI, Hansama, and Tactical. I'm trying to think if there's really anybody else who I'm overly concerned about. I think that's really about it. Oh, and Danny, obviously. Idiot. Danny too. And so, yeah, I think that those, four are going to be up there, and I think Tactical has a chance to push any of them out of the way. Truly, as he really kind of comes into his own a little bit more, it's going to be fun to see him grow and progress. And I think more than likely he's going to end up being the mentor in the bot lane, which will be interesting. So yeah, very, very excited about the Tactical signing. Like I said, right now, I would give that signing in particular an A, because while there were a lot of AD carry options, I think getting one, making that your NA, your third NA player specifically, I think is really good. I just don't think there's a lot of options at mid and support that I really like. And personally, I think the signing of Tactical pretty much means that Jensen's off the table. I think Jensen was only going to be out there if Tactical didn't sign and they needed to use an import slot at AD carry. I think their developmental roster is going to actually look a lot like C9's. Going to be completely honest with you guys. I think C9 is going to be kind of where our developmental stuff starts. So we will see on that one. But yeah, I give the individual move for a Tactical an A. I'm still about a B plus for the team overall. We'll have to see what they do next. But speaking of next is the coach, our new head coach, Chawi. I believe that's how you pronounce it. And this guy has a lot more experience than I thought. I really was kind of concerned when I heard this. There was a lot of rumors and teases about, a player with 5 letters in their name and it being a C to start, and everybody thought Chovy. And I was like, I'm not hearing Chovy. I'm hearing that they are trying to make a major signing in mid lane, but I have not heard that it's Chovy. So I don't think anybody was really considering Chawi as their new coach. I still I really, really, really hope that Peter Zhang, well, he can't be head coach now, so you might as well keep him down there to development. And if TSM's really committing to, academy and amateur of being their places to develop talent, then you're going to want your best developmental coach down there. So I guess Peter gets to keep his job and be arguably the best head coach in NA that doesn't have a top NA head coaching job. But I digress there. To talk to you guys about Chawi, he is from Singapore. He has played in the PCS and the LMS. The LMS before it was the PCS. He has coached a good amount of teams, and more specifically, he was a player that went to Worlds. He went to Worlds with AHQ Club, I believe, twice, and Hong Kong Attitude once, as a player, and then I think Hong Kong Attitude once as a coach too. So I think he's been to Worlds 4 times. It's either 3 or 4 times. He played on Taipei Assassins about 2 years after they had won their world championship as well, and he's now been a coach since 2018. And while the last year or so, he's kind of struggled a little bit, to be honest with you. Since he came back to Hong Kong Attitude from Brazil, actually. I'm still, there's still a lot of promise to this guy, honestly. I really think he's going to be an interesting signing, because somebody with that much, experience at Worlds, I think is something that they were trying to go for. And while the PCS is not necessarily the hardest region to win and coach in, it has gotten a lot better over the last couple of years. And as a head coach, you can't really decide who your players are. And from what I've been reading and seeing, it almost feels like he was performing above expectations even. I don't think the Hong Kong Attitude roster was all that good, and he was still finishing like 4th and 5th at times. I would kind of compare them maybe to FlyQuest, maybe, where, they had a couple good years and now they kind of have fallen into more like the middle area. And yeah, I mean, I think that happens sometimes as you get older and the teams don't really build around you. Maybe he just needed a new challenge, or I don't know. I don't think this is confirmed, by the way, like 100%. I believe it was reported by Esports. I wrote the piece for it as well. And I think that TSM are, I'd have to think if they're going to make a move like this, that they really have a plan laid out. One that is very much, how would I put this? That since Bjergsen's leaving, I think they have really repositioned themselves as to the mindset of how this org is going to work in League of Legends from here on out. And they've been putting a lot of time and money into their Eastern, endeavors, in Japan, Korea, China. And so I think that's going to be the focus of this team from here on out. I really do. I bet you even our academy and amateur spots will be filled, for how many spots they're allowed to have, filled with, very young Chinese, PCS and LCK players. I think that's their mindset right now. And, Peter Zhang speaks, some dialect or form of Chinese. I'm not going to assume that it's Mandarin, but there's just some dialect or form. I know Spica does. I'm pretty sure that Huni does as well. And I don't know if Tactical does. And so that's going to lead me into segment 2 here, where we're going to talk about Spica and TSM. And I would say more about Chawi, guys. I just don't know a lot more. I've done as much research as I can. He seems like a good signing on paper in terms of exploring it and trying something new. And again, the reason why I want to move on to Spica is because I think that TSM understand that Spica is their focus now. There's nobody else in the world to them other than Spica. And I think every decision that they are going to make is going to be based around trying to keep Spica on TSM and trying to keep him happy, right? And so, when Spica put out a tweet, I think it was to Degon, that, he's involved in every roster decision, that they are consulting him and talking to him about it. That to me is not only exciting, but it shows that there's clearly a mental shift from Bjergsen to Spica. Now, this is what TSM does, though. And I think they're one of the only true teams in the LCS that really consults one player as to who is going to be. Now, I don't know. C9 may have done this with Fudge, honestly, but based on their last video. But I really think that TSM are just like Spica. We're really sorry about Bjergsen. Really sorry about Doublelift. And we're really sorry about Sword Art. It just didn't work out. And this team is making a lot of changes. Like, Lena has already officially said that she was stepping down. I had heard these rumors a while ago, like a month and a half ago. I put it out there on Twitter. Did not get too much traction because I even struggled to believe that it was true. But then when I went digging, she was gone. Like, it seems like there's wholesale changes happening for the LCS team. And I think, they want Spica to be their guy. And they did this with Bjergsen, and I think they're going to do it again with Spica, where I believe their whole goal this year is to start building a young team and letting Spica be the focal point of that team. And maybe that's why they hired a former mid, Chawi, as their new head coach, because they know they're going to have a young mid laner that needs to be coached by somebody who's played the position. And, he's probably going to understand that mid, jungle synergy, which is going to be very important. So I am truly of the belief that when Spica said, I want to play in the LPL one day, I think that TSM are trying to, a certain degree, bring the LPL to TSM and bring it to the LCS. We have not seen, from what I can remember, a lot of Chinese players coming over to North America. I believe, I don't even know. I'd have to go research it. I can't think of too many off the top of my head. I know we've had some, but I just, as you guys can tell, my brain's all over the place today. But my point is that TSM, I think, are going to try to bring young LPL talent, young Chinese talent, specifically from the LDL, from what it sounds like, over to TSM because they believe that they have a good chance of signing Spica to a long-term deal. And I think that if once this team gets done, I'm going to put it at a 50-50 chance that we hear about a Spica extension. I really believe that is coming. And, I think, again, there's a reason why Hooney is still on this team, guys. I think that there were other options out there. And while I think Hooney played well himself, it was very clear watching every TSM Legends that Spica and Hooney were becoming very good friends. And they may have already been good friends before this, but they were for sure, when it came to TSM, they were the ones who were talking with each other, hanging out with each other, having fun with each other. I think Lost was kind of in that group, and then Power of Evil and Sword Art seemed to be doing their own thing a lot of the time. And so I truly believe that they are saying, Spica, what do you want? What do we have to do to keep you here? And he is like, hey, guys, like the place I've been wanting to play, I want to test my skills in, is the LPO. And they're saying, okay, well, obviously you're not, like, if you stay with us, you can't do that. So what can we do, right, to make it feel more like that here? And he's like, okay, well, let's go get some young LDL talent. Because here's the thing. I can't imagine that TSM are going to do this rebuild and get all this young LDL talent specifically instead of European or LCK, right, Korean talent. Why would they focus on China, even though I know they've won, Worlds 2 of the past 3 years? But why would they specifically start focusing on China for the first time? Unless if it's to help with Spica, because we all know that Spica is part Chinese at least. And we obviously know that he can that's part of the reason why Sword Art worked out, was because they could talk to each other as well. And it's clear to me that now TSM is buying into that. And they're telling Spica, this is their way, if they haven't said it directly, Spica, we want you here. We are going to give you what you want. You are going to have this young Chinese team built around you to help you, move forward and help you become one of the best. And try to help, TSM play better at Worlds. And if they can get this talent before it gets to the LPL or the LCK, right? And they already have it built up here, then maybe they can, start finding more success internationally. Because I think, I think that C9 and TSM might be ahead of the curve. They're not doing the TL where they're just going to sign all the already established players, and they're not, going over to Europe to grab all of their premium talent, at least yet. Because they've seen that and it hasn't worked. So why not get LCK and LPL talent? That's my thought process right now. If the rumors continue to be true. We don't know. We really don't. We don't know if TSM is going to get this LDL talent. And that goes into our last segment of the day. LDL options in EU. There was already a rumor that Shenyi, again, I might butcher some of these pronouncements. I'm very, very sorry ahead of time. But that Shenyi was going to be the support for TSM, based off of a very apparently reputable leaker/rumor account on Twitter. It has since been debunked. It has since, been debunked. There's just apparently not. That is not the case currently. Apparently, Shenyi has unfollowed TSM on, I think it's Weibo, and no longer is following them and anything like that. So I still have them on here as an option, but I want to run through the different options because this is what I did all my research on.
And let me tell you, fam, there's some really great, not just good, but great young talent in the LDL right now. That I think that TSM would really probably be taking a serious look at. And we're just gonna go down by what I found. I'll explain to you why I'm looking at them, and then I will go into, kind of where I think they'd fit in, and just how things would work. So what I did is I started with, all right, who in the last, at least the last split of the LDL did well. Then I went back and I looked at spring, and I was like, okay, who did well in spring? Like, there was one option in, I think it was spring, named Virgil, who had done really well, but then it looked like he got benched in the summer, so I didn't put him on here. Even though he could definitely be an option, I think, for them. But we'll start with Wang Zhao, and this guy is pretty good. He played for Top Esports, their academy team essentially, and he has a very interesting champion pool. Here are his top champions: Rise, Set, LeBlanc, Viego, Akali, Lee Sin, Zoe, Silas. That's pretty much his big ones. He did play a couple games of Vizier. Wasn't great. It looks like he's a lot better on Assassins to a certain degree, with LeBlanc, Viego, and Akali being his best champions. And the funny thing is, I think a lot of the LPL teams are better on Assassins, but his Rise was his best champion along with Set, which was interesting. He went a combined 20-5 on those champions and had a KDA somewhere at like 6.5. So, this guy is, he was CSing at 9.1 per minute on Rise, which is pretty freaking high. And so, I don't know how old he is. I could not find that. But it is very, he's only been playing League of Legends at a high level since April of this year. And he was absolutely dominating in terms of, well, basically everything at the LDL level. He played 5 less games than the top person and only had 13 less kills than them. He had some of the least amount of deaths, 47 deaths. And then here are the people who were surrounding him in kills: 105, 90, 112, and 98. That's the top 5. And then he's sitting at 47 and in third in terms of just kills in general. His kill participation was a little bit lackluster, but that's whatever. His CS per minute was about 8, which is good. We'd like it a little bit higher. Damage per minute was in the 500s. He was doing really well. These stats coming from Oracle's Elixir, by the way. But this kid looks really good. He played really, really well. The fact that he was able to do as much as he did, and I'll tell you how many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13 mid laners played at least one or anywhere between 1 and 8 more games than him, and he still finished second or third by 1 kill in terms of kills. That's just crazy to me. And I know kills aren't everything, but when you have a mid laner, you want them to get kills. You want them to be involved in killing. That is kind of their purpose. I don't know his style. It seems like he may be somebody who roams around, considering his champion pool. I did not have enough time to watch games of these people, but just looking statistically and looking at the champions that he plays and how his team did, this kid's pretty good. And it seems like he's very young. He's pretty inexperienced, but he learned a lot. He played well in his first 4 months of his entire career at a higher level. And, is now looking, he's looking pretty good, to say the least. So, he's somebody who I would absolutely have my eye on. And, if they're going to make a big splash and they sign this guy, you go and you look at him, you're going to be like, oh my God, this guy's pretty good. Another one that was really good was XXX, also used to be known as Tides. It looks like he and the jungler, because the jungler went YYYY, so, or triple Y, I don't know. Maybe they were just kind of doing it to troll around. I think because their other jungler at one point was IFF triple Z. It seems like maybe this was just kind of something they were trolling around with. I don't know. Maybe he will be triple X from here on out. But this guy was pretty good as well. He was much more of an assist player, though. He led the LDL in assists by a pretty significant margin, by 54 assists. His KD specifically was basically a 1, 85 kills to 85 or to 86 deaths. But and his CS per minute was pretty lackluster, to be honest with you. But at like a 6.5. But that's also because it seems to be kind of the way that he plays. Here's his champions: Galio, Pantheon, Twisted Fate, Rise, Nocturne, Lulu, Talia, Karma, Set. And Seraphine even is up there. So this guy is much more of a supportive mid laner, one who will roam around the map, help his team get kills, and doesn't necessarily play for himself all that much. He played back in 2018 on the team for just a month, and then didn't play again until April of this year on WZ Esports Club. And I don't know how old he is. I would assume that he's a little bit older, considering he started playing in 2018. Even if that was when he was 16, 17, he'd still be somewhere between, I would imagine, 20 and 22. But he's a solid player, and if TSM are deciding, hey, we're going to carry, through Huni, Spica, and Tactical, then this might be your guy. He's going to roam around. He knows how to play, the champions that have great global effects on the game. But the problem is when you need him to carry, he may not be able to. So there's a little bit to weigh on there. I don't necessarily have him as one of my top options, but he's definitely an interesting one. Another player that was really interesting was Strive from Rare Atom, period. Rare Atom was a team that I think kind of came out of nowhere in the LPL this last year. They were really good, honestly, and I think it seems like their academy / whatever they're calling a challengers team is pretty good. This kid is solid. He did get a lot of counter pick rating, but he did well with it. 119 kills to 91 deaths and 261 assists, 4.2 KDA. The one thing I like about him the most is he was participating in 71%, 70.8, but basically 71% of his kills, his team's kills, while only still having 22% of the kill share. His CS per minute as well was, I believe, the highest. Yeah, it was the highest in the LDL at 93. His damage per minute was about middle of the road. Not something that I loved, but upper middle of the road. He was honestly he was doing pretty well. His average gold per minute was the highest in the LDL as well. And his statistical, the champions that he plays, I think are honestly pretty useful. Orianna, Galio, Silas, Jace, LeBlanc, Twisted Fate, Victor, Zoe, Syndra, Vladimir, Akali, Lissandra, Lucian, Rise, Viego, Aurelia, Renekton. He's got a little bit more time, played, because he's played, I think, the last 3 seasons, but he's still pretty young from what it looks like. I think he'd still only be 19, maybe 20, from what I could find. I could be very wrong on that, but that's what I could gather. And to be honest, this guy's a beast. He plays a lot of different champions. I think he can fit just about any style that the team would need him to. And the fact that his champion pool is just so vast from the looks of it, I think would be something that would definitely intrigue TSM a lot. When you need him to go globals, he can play Twisted Fate, Galio, and Silas. He's 8-1 all time on Twisted Fate and 8-3 on Silas. So he can play that, Twisted Fate matchup that we've been seeing a lot of recently. But when Jace is in the meta for mid lane, you could flex Jace now between Huni and Strive, and that would be really, really awesome. He plays things like Lissandra and Lucian And Viego, I mean, this guy's pretty good. His traditional, kind of control mages aren't as great. His Orianna, he's 12-3 on with a 9-3 KDA. I mean, obviously he's very good on that one. I think if you needed to, his Victor is not so great. His Syndra is okay, but I don't, and his Rise is average as well. I don't really care as much. I think those ones are champions that you can learn a little bit easier. They're not as technically heavy necessarily. But the fact that, he can play LeBlanc, he can play Twisted Fate, he can play Zoe even, we just some of these champions that we didn't get to see with Power of Evil and even to a certain degree with Bjergsen is kind of nice, and I mean, heck, he can play Yone, and Kiana mid. Like this guy has a champion pool that I think would more allow him to be would more allow TSM to be flexible, and they could, depending on what they wanted to do, which is why I like him more than Triple X, is strictly because of the fact that this guy could fit whatever comp you want to go with. You want to go mid carry, cool. Give him Orianna, give him Silas, give him Twisted. Well, Twisted Fate's not as much of a carry, but you get my point. Like, you want him to carry, he can probably do it. But you want him to support. Better examples: Galio, Twisted Fate. I think he even plays. He doesn't really play any like mid supports like Sarah. He played one game of Seraphine and it didn't go well, and he didn't play Karma. But he can play like those global champions and stuff like that. I don't know. I mean, he looks good. He looks good to me. He's somebody who I would say, okay, if they sign him, I'm not going to be upset about that. I think he would be an interesting player to watch. Continuing on, we got Force. This kid is super interesting as well. He's been playing under Suning for the last 2 years. It's possible that they even asked our good friend Sword Art, what they thought on him, if he still felt like talking to us. He's another high kill guy. He finished even with 2 less game or only 3 more games than Wang Zhao, excuse me. Force, 129, 78 deaths. That was also one of the lowest ones in the top tier. 273 assists to 129 kills, 5.2 KDA. One of the highest kill participations, I believe it was third. At 72%. His CS per minute was a little low, 7.5. And his DPM was, again, pretty average, like 448. But he'd have to learn, how to create a little bit more of an advantage for himself. But he's pretty solid, and he plays a little bit more of the control mages that we're used to in his career. He plays Zoe a lot, LeBlanc a lot, Lucian a lot. I was thinking of somebody else. Really, his control mages are Syndra, Orianna. That's pretty much about it, actually. But he can play assassins. He can play the Zoe really well. He can play some of the AD mids, it looks like. Again, they'd probably have to teach this kid. He's only played 1 game of Rise in his professional career. And only 3 games of Azir, and they were all bad, it looks like. So, he'd have to learn some of the bigger, more standard AP carries. But, he's another young option. He's only played, basically 2 years. He's basically just been on Suning's second team for a while. So he's been, I don't know, he's been an interesting player, I guess, and one that they might want to take a look at. The next one is probably going to be the oldest one, but I did like what I saw from not only stats but from the teams he's played for too. He is 20. He'll be turning 21 here in almost exactly a month. Fun Plus Phoenix, academy team for a while now. He's played with E-Star / they've rebranded to Ultra Prime, their academy team for the last year or so, after being pretty much on Fun Plus Phoenix for most of his career. And he's an interesting player, and one that I think that TSM should take a serious look at. 4.2 KDA, 142 kills, 3.8 KDA. He dies a lot, which is the only major problem. 112 deaths, But 280 assists, he was involved in 70% of his team's kills, and 8.1 CS per minute, which I think is great. But one of the things I liked about him the most, he was pouring out about 538 damage per minute. That was third in the LDL, only behind two players who played about 15 to 16 less games than him, which is super impressive. He knew how to create a gold lead for himself, and he, I think has an interesting, champ pool. One of the picks that he plays is Rumble, which would actually fit again with this team very specifically, pretty well. If Rumble ever came back into the jungle, you could literally have a triple flex of Rumble in top, mid, and jungle, which I think would be fun. Plays LeBlanc, Jace. He does play Syndra, Zoe, Irelia, Lissandra, Galio. He's played some Ryze, isn't great on it. Has played some Azir, not great on it either. But he has a pretty vast champion pool, 30 different champions that he's played. And, while we don't want, another Rumble, not one trick, but, highly played Rumble player, I think this kid would be interesting, and I wouldn't be too upset. He clearly wants to prove himself. He's been sitting under Doinby for a while. Now, with Doinby being released, or not being released, but leaving FPX, there's a small chance that this guy moves up and becomes the new, FPX mid laner. I doubt it, which is what makes me think he might be available for us. But I like him. I think he's an interesting player, and I think he would be one that TSM would need to take a look at. The next one is one that I actually think could be extremely interesting for TSM is 0909 or 0909. I don't really know how they say it. He's got a pretty strange name, gamer name, but this guy is pretty solid. Statistically, he's very young from the looks of it. He's been playing since 2020, so he'll be going into his third year technically. And he's been with Edward Gaming, that team that literally just won Worlds. I don't know if Scout's leaving or not. If not, then this guy might be available. He plays a lot of. He's another guy that plays 29, almost 30 champions. His are Orianna, Twisted Fate, Jace, Lee Sin, Set, Syndra, LeBlanc, Galio, Silas, Zoe, and Kiana. All those champions he has 8 games or more on. He's never been overly proficient necessarily with one of them. It looks like his best champions are kind of AD actually, and Jace, Lee Sin, and Set. But he can play the traditional AP mages, control mages, but he can also play the assassins. He can play really just about anything. He can play Silas, he can play Galio, he can play the Twisted Fate, he can play those champions that can get around the map. And so I think he's another pretty solid option, and he's been learning under Scout for the last 2 years. So, should they actually have the two of them working together, who knows? But, my thought is that he'd be a nice developmental talent for them, to say the least. And one that I think could come in and maybe surprise some people, even right off the bat. Last one I'm going to go into is a player named Care, who has also played for Fun Plus Phoenix's Challenger team with Kame. But this guy, it's interesting. I don't know how, or not Kame. Who was it? Sorry, guys, 1 second. Kame had played with them. Yeah, so I guess he replaced Kame. He's 17 years old. So, he'd be just eligible. He'd be turning 18 in April. And he'd be just eligible for the LCS. But this guy is pretty solid. 139 kills, 98 deaths, 269 assists, 4.2 KDA. His kill participation's a little low, 64%. I don't love that, but whatever. And his CS per minute, his damage per minute are actually a little bit low, but I think that's mostly just because he's younger, and even hasn't had as much time in the LPL solo queue. But this kid's already played 20 champions in 1 year, which is Really impressive. A lot of games on Silas, 17-4. A lot of games on Oriana, 15-3 overall on Oriana. He plays Syndra. He plays the Akalis, Galio, Renekton, Viego, Yone, Set, Lee Sin, Twisted Fate as well, Victor. Like, this kid can play a lot of different stuff, and he's normally pretty good on it. His career KDA is nearly a 5. And so, when you look at it like that, you're like, oh my god, like this kid's pretty good. And he's super young, and I think, when I look at the options for, the from the LDL, which is again the rumored place where we're going to be getting mids, I would put him up in my top 3. I think it'd be, Wang Zhao, Strive, and Care would probably be my top 3 options. Care, just because this kid's already talented. He's only 17, and he's only going to get better. I think Strive has a really fun champion pool, and I think that he has a lot of room to grow still too. And I think, Wang Zhao it might be my top player. He might even be around the same age as Care. Care was the only age I could really find, but he's also played 20 champions in 61 games. I mean, these young LDL mids, if they're willing to come to America, and if they're willing to play with TSM, and the LDL teams are even willing to let them leave, they could be very, very, very good. So, yeah, I'm pretty impressed by potential LDL mids. Now, again, obviously they're playing against each other, but these are the 3 that stood out amongst. I think there was like 25 to 30 different LDL options that all played at least like 18 games or something like that. The LDL is just a pipeline of talent. So I love the fact that they're even looking. These guys could be one of the next best young mids. They could be the next Doinby or, rookie or whatever, whoever they decide to take a serious look at. So any of those options I wouldn't be totally upset with. I think Force, Triple X, and I forget who the other one was, but I think like Force and Triple X would be the ones I'd be maybe a little more hesitant on, especially Triple X, because I don't know that he knows how to carry, but yeah, I could be wrong on that as well. Again, I'm not an expert on this, guys. I'm just giving you the knowledge that I have gotten recently. We're going to run through the last couple options here, and then we're going to talk about EU for just a second. Support, Meow New, I believe, is potentially how you pronounce that. But the one thing I will say about pretty much all these supports is they're young, and they all pretty much play the same champions. CJ and JK specifically play a lot of Thresh, but the rest of them, it's all heavy engage, mostly, Leonas and Hook type champions and some Alistars in there. And I think the main reason for that is because of the fact that, most of them, this was their first season, or maybe they're even their second. So that's kind of been what's been dominating the support meta for a very long time. But it doesn't seem like any of them, at least on the surface level, play a lot of, ranged enchanter, enchanter type supports. The ones that more do those kinds of champions are, looks like Jue, Shenyi, and Lele. And that's because they've I guess that's just kind of how some of them play. But actually, I was wrong on Jue. It's mostly Shenyi and Lele. So, yeah, I mean, they all know how to fight. That's what the LPL does. They all come in, they fight over every objective that they can, and they are players who I think could help TSM a lot. They can bring over the strategies and the mindset that EU players need, or not EU players, NA players really need. And I think that LPL style is it's won Worlds 2 out of the last 3 years, with EDG and Fun Plus Phoenix. So. I don't know, guys. It's interesting. There are a lot of options from the LDL, and I didn't even look at the actual LPL options that could be available, just because if TSM's going to go developmental, I feel like that's the way they're going to go, and I think the players who are already up there in the LPL might not be as available. So I just don't know that those are the options that I would really care to look at necessarily. Um, Now I will say I've got one more option for us, to go over really quickly, and that's the double EU option. Humanoid and Mickey. Here's what I'm gonna say. Humanoid has not signed yet, to my knowledge, unless if I'm missing something. And you know what? I'm gonna check just to make sure. Um, LEC rumors. But I am about certain that Humanoid has not officially gone over to no, he is not. He has not officially gone over to the what's her name? It's the Fnatic. Now that is the rumor. That is where it seems to be going. But that's just it's not officially happened yet. So, with that being the case, I believe that there's a chance that Humanoid is still available. And while I would like LDL options for sure, because I believe in the path that's being set for TSM, if for some reason they're not going to go young and they're not convinced that Spica is going to stay past this year, then they need another younger-ish face that can, that can come to this team and make them relevant again, and somebody who they can build around. And Humanoid is only going to be 22 in March. I know it feels like he's been around forever, because it feels like he's been around forever, but he's a great player. He is a lot of the LPL, mids and LCK mids had a lot of good things to say about him. And I think he could very much come over to this team and make us an instant contender. I don't think we'd have to wait and see. I think it would be like, us, TL, and 100 Thieves, and EG. And, I think it would be a little bit of the same as last year, to be completely honest with you. But I think Humanoid fits a much more aggressive mid lane. He is very much willing to play for his teammates as well. I watched him die, multiple times on TF, just trying to get stun kills to help Karzi or Elyoya get ahead, or even Armut to a certain degree. So I would not be upset with his signing. I do think that he's probably their one of their top options that are available. And then Mickey X, I don't know how I'd feel about that one, to be honest. That is what Bloop GG, also known as Pablo, from Dot Esports, has said that Mickey is an option that TSM are looking at. I just can't believe that TSM are gonna, that they're gonna get tactical in, and then they're gonna buy out Mickey at whatever absurd price that is being asked for, which I'm sure has been lowered pretty significantly at this point. But I just can't see them doing it. But that is the option. That's one of the options. I went through all the other EU options weeks ago. It does not seem like they are going young EU. It seems like they're going young China, maybe young Korea. I have not heard much about the LCK lately. But, there's just still so much to figure out with this team, guys. And I guess Mickey and Humanoid would be very easy options to just slot in and find success right away. I will say that. I don't think you'd have to be building towards anything. Which is kind of the LCS way. That's how they prefer to do things. I wish they wouldn't. I wish they would more, build towards a future. But I really think it just depends on Spica. I really do. If they think Spica's going to stay, or they already have him locked into a contract for long term, then guess what? I think these LDL options are going to work. If not, then I think that they could go EU and try to make Humanoid their next face of the franchise. That's what TSM likes to do. While they will move pieces around and everything, they like to find one player who they can build around for the next, hopefully 5 or so odd years. Again, we've only seen that really with Bjergsen, but it seems like that's the way they're going with Spica too. So, yeah, guys. It's just, there's so much to go over, and this is one of the teams in the LCS, pretty much the only team at this point, that we just really don't know a lot about yet. And we're going to find out. We are going to find out real quickly if this team's able to perform or not. And all I can say is I really hope they can, because I like these players. I think, I really like the tactical signing. I think the Chawi signing is at least the thought that they're going, Eastern in terms of their roster. I can't see why they would bring him in. Otherwise, I know he does speak English pretty well from what I have heard. So maybe they really just think he's a great coaching option. But I'd have to think that they're also, looking at China pretty heavily. So those are my thoughts right now. Right before Thanksgiving. Boy, oh boy. It's going to be interesting. I do not know where or what we're going to be doing yet as a team. I'm very hopeful that things are going to be great, but there's still, from what it sounded like, I think Dunk said on either Reddit or Twitter that expect announcements in 2 to 3 weeks. That's another reason to me that it sounds like LDL is a possibility, just because I think it's going to take that long, kind of like it did with Sword Art, where they don't want to promise somebody and then they still got to figure out all the legal paperwork to get them over here. But it also could be Humanoid and Mickey, because they still have to figure out the buyouts. So, until Humanoid is officially signed with some other team as their mid laner, I just think he's an option for TSM. And I think they should feel the same way. And then I think Mickey X is probably that too. So, with that, we're not going to end. We have to talk about our giveaway winner. And like I said at the beginning, there were about 15 of you that actually did, the following me on Twitter, the following TGH on Twitter, the, jumping into the Talking TSM Discord and all of that. And yet, it was not anybody new, actually. It was our good friend, Tim Blanton. You are the winner of the TSM FTX jersey giveaway. What I did is I just put everybody's name into the wheelie thing on Google, where I think it was Spin the Wheel is what it's called. And I clicked it once, and it landed on Tim. So, Tim, congratulations. You're awesome. You've been a big supporter of the show since day one. I'm really excited to see you get the win here on this one. I'll be reaching out so that I can, buy the jersey and have it sent over to you. But yet again, just thanks for the support. I just love having you and all the stuff that we're doing, man. So really appreciate it. And with that, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for listening as well. Sorry, bringing this all over here. You would think I'd have the actual ending completely down, but I don't yet. I have it mostly down. I've done it almost by memory a couple times, but I want to make sure I get everything. So if you like this show, again, please like, subscribe, and comment on this video. Let me know what you guys think of these rosters rumors so far. Do you think they're going LDL? Do you think they're going EU? Do you think they're even going to go with a mix? And what do you think of the Chawi and the tactical signing? I'd love to hear what your guys' thoughts are on those. Also, let's continue to make this the number one TSM podcast. The numbers are really getting steady and growing slowly, but I love that about it. I think, I haven't been really posting it on the TSM subreddit because, I don't want to spam there. I've been enjoying the group that we've been, curating of, dedicated TSM fans. And guys, I know it's a little bit rough right now, but I'm telling you, the things are going to get better for this team, I think, sooner rather than later, which will be nice. We're getting through this rough patch, hopefully. Please share this with your friends. You can follow me on Twitter at TGH Robert Haynes. You can also follow the Gamehouse at TGH Esports. It was a busy last Monday specifically, trying to cover all the moves. Lastly, head to thegamehouse.com. Check out all of our different content we got going on. A lot of Pokemon stuff. League of Legends has dropped some new stuff. I'm playing the Rune King a lot. Trying to grind that game out so that I can have it done and do a review on it. It seems to be a really, really fun. It's a beautiful game. If you like RPGs, I would highly suggest it. Wow. Whew. With that, thanks for tuning in. The show comes out during the off season every Monday, and it's exclusively for your TSM earholes. I'm Robert Haynes, and this has been Talking TSM. I'll see y'all next week. And happy Thanksgiving to those of you who celebrate.